Welcome back to another episode of Hashtag Her Story, where extraordinary women share their untold stories to the world. We are joined tonight with Martinette James. I met Martinette, I would say, many years ago. And I am not going to prolong introducing her. I am going to bring her right up to the stage. She is going to pour out her heart, and we will give her the opportunity to share her story with us. And I hope that you guys, are encouraged because it takes a lot to share a story, but not to shy away because this is a safe space where women just come together and be vulnerable. So, Martinette, thank you for being here.
Thank you so much, Clavia, for having me here. It is indeed a great honor for you to allow me this privilege to share your space with you and to
Yes.
share your audience with you. I do not take it for granted. So, for those
Awesome.
of you who do not know me, and for those who know me, let me reintroduce myself. My name is Martinette James. I am originally from St. Vincent and the Grenadines. I migrated here many, many years ago. I like Clavia have said, we've met a very long time ago, years ago.
Hmm.
And it is indeed an honor for me to come here and share my story with you. And my hope is by the end of me sharing part of my story is that someone will be impacted, someone will be empowered, and
For
someone
sure.
will get to the point to realize that this story is not for them. Whatever we
Right.
went through in life, it's definitely, someone said to me that God gave, his strongest angels, trials,
Yeah.
and for us to experience things in life and decide to sit on it and shy away from it, it's really an injustice to someone else.
Yeah.
So,
I agree.
yes.
Well, thank
So
you
let
so
me start.
much.
My pleasure.
Hmm. Floor is yours.
Okay. So tonight I decided to share a bit about me in terms of relationship, marriage and abuse, and of course, childhood trauma. And what I'm going to be focusing on is childhood trauma first and how it has steered me into a way in which my life has turned to where it is today. So, how many of you know what it feels like to be invaded by someone you trust, whether it's a loved one, a father, a mom, an uncle, a friend, a husband? No child should have to go through any such traumas. And like many of you, I'm quite sure my story is not unique, but I'm able to relate my story because I have had the experience and the privilege of healing through my journey. Even though I am still healing, I never refer to myself anymore as a victim because many of times as we go through and experience childhood traumas, many of us never get the opportunity to see ourselves as the victor. We give so much credit to our molesters. So I'm not here to shed light on any of my molesters tonight. I'm here to tell you what I did and how I was affected, by childhood trauma. So by the age of 9, I think it was, I was molested by one of my stepfathers. I like to say, like, I have one too many stepfathers. And that molestation, which right now in this power, I want to change the name from molestation because I realize that when we call it molestation, we kind of like softening it because of what society has taught us to say. So I no longer, in this moment, calls it molestation. I call it rape, right? Because as a child, even as a woman, male, female, when someone invade your body, invade your space, invade your privacy without permission, it's just what it is. It's rape. And for years, I had centered my life around that. I I resolved to being shy. I felt like I had no voice because when that happened to me several times, I went for help, but in that moment, I didn't get the help that I needed. So I was told to be quiet, right? So in that moment, being quiet, I called I called it silent screams, and I'll come to that reason in a while why I call it silent screams. And that molestation, that rape has shaped me in a way of not being able to trust. It followed me like a stigma because it went from not just being raped by a stepfather, but also being raped by people that I trust. Some of it were like gang rapes. And I know many people will not realize that I have experienced these things because I kept it silent for a while because I was told not to talk about it. I was told even that at the age of 9 it was my fault. So my voice was silent. That led me into being into relationships in which I chose to be in, but they were not the right relationships for me. So at a very early age, after being raped, I got married very young, by the age of 18. I started a family, and that marriage also turned out to be very abusive in every sense of the word. I mean, physically, infidelity, psychologically, every form of abuse you could think about, I went through it in that marriage. Hence, I migrated here from that abusive marriage, and where I met my second husband, we got married, and that marriage too, after 23 years, turned out to be one of abuse, physically, infidelity, and psychologically. So during that time, I felt as if my past had followed me, because I thought after migrating from St. Vincent from one abusive relationship into another, I thought at that point I had actually get over what I came from, what I went through. But I like to call it like a volcanic eruption, right? During my second marriage, it's like the ashes from my past just followed me, and like within minutes, it's just like erupted, and I experienced it back, basically the same thing. That led me to a form of depression that I didn't think that I was experiencing, because like I said, the silent screams were there, and I really didn't know what decisions to make, because I was tied between remaining in an abusive marriage and religion, right? So for those of you who didn't know, yes, I grew up in the church, and I don't know how many of you could relate to being told, it's not just marriage vows about for better or worse, but also vows where Christianity for me played a lot in keeping me silent as well. Because even though some members of the church, my congregation, knew that my marriage was not a marriage I wanted to stay in, I was told that, quote unquote, it was God's will. So I remained in that relationship for longer than I should have stayed. By the time I realized that I should have left that marriage, I felt like I was no longer worthy. I felt like I didn't deserve it. And it made me look at religion and Christianity through a different lens, because I couldn't understand why I was told to remain in a marriage that, not just because I didn't feel love, but because there was so much abuse and infidelity. I felt as if, well, actually my marital bed was, those vows are broke and were broken, and I still had to stay in it. But when I decided to step away from it, I felt even worse, because I experienced a period in time in my life where I felt like the church wasn't there for me. So again, I started looking at Christianity and religion and who I am and what should I believe in through a different lens. But it wasn't until I decided to become a part of a community, an amazing community, which is called like Girl Hold My Hands. I connected with a mentor and a coach, and we started like connecting Monday through Friday. Actually, back then it was like Monday to Sunday. We would connect on Zoom, 8 o'clock, meditate and pour into each other. And then in 2000, when COVID hit, I decided to get a mentor. So my first mentor was Les Brown. I decided to start investing in myself, because my mindset at the time was like really horrible. I really couldn't see myself as worthy. I didn't see myself as even deserving anything good. So during that time, going through some depression, I decided to seek some counseling. But many of you, many of us from the Caribbean, we were not taught to express ourselves. We internalize everything, and actually we didn't even believe. But I personally, from a family that I came from, we didn't believe in having a psychologist, right? Because we were told that we keep the family business inside. You don't take anything outside. So even the mere idea of knowing that, having a psychologist, you are looked upon as like, what's really wrong with you? That's not normal. We don't see psychologists. But for me, I had to do what worked best for me. So during that time, I started seeking counseling, but that really didn't work for me either, because part of my trauma was the fear of being in an enclosed room. Because one of the rape experience that I had is someone that I trusted, like a teacher that I trusted to tutor me, had me where I had to experience basically like a gang rape where I was locked in a room. So even now at my age, being locked in an enclosed room, I still have a kind of phobia. If I go into any place, that it still triggers me. The first place I look for is like the door is like, where is the closest exit? So with that experience, being locked in a room and, basically being gang raped, I just couldn't, therapy wasn't working for me then, because being in a psychologist's office and being in enclosed room, I was more about the fear rather than, being able to verbalize exactly what I was feeling. So I started doing self-help book, and like I said, I decided to invest in myself, get a mentor, which was Les Brown. So that was during COVID. I started having Les Brown as a mentor for about, I think it's maybe like about 6 to 9 months. And for the first time, I got the opportunity with Les Brown. He had something called Women of the Power Voice. So I got the opportunity to tell my story with him for the first time. He gave me 3 minutes to tell my story. So I shared my story with him for 3 minutes. And for the first time, I felt like if I actually was heard. I felt like my voice was heard for the first time, because he understood my story, he understood my pain from a place where I never experienced that before. And he really poured into me and shared that experience with me. So in that moment, my voice that I always had, I reconnected to my voice. So then is when I realized how important having a mentor is, how important having a coach is. So those are some of the steps I take, I took towards healing myself. But one of the things I learned from Les Brown that was like really hard to swallow is that in that moment he said to me, Martinette, wherever you found yourself, know that at some point in time, you made a decision to be there. But that wasn't easy for me to hear, right? Because I looked at everything. I looked at my childhood, I looked at both marriages, and I'm like, wow, did I really, at some point made a decision to be there in whatever situation it was? So after learning that and accepting that, I realized, yeah, I really did, and it's one of the things I share with anyone that I have the opportunity to share with, to let them know that whatever situation we find ourselves in, at some point in time, we actually made a decision to be there, and we actually do have the strength, to step away. It's like you're not a tree, right? You can move. So if you're in a situation where you find yourself it's not working for you, if you're in a situation now where you find yourself that the disrespect starts, it's basically like new rules, right? So if you're not being solved, if you feel like you're being tolerated versus being celebrated, you have to step into that power that you already have and step away from that relationship, step away from any situation that no longer serves you. So today I live my life by new rules, what I call new rules. If something isn't working for me, I change it. I live my life as I am the author, and the director and the creator and the star in my own story. I refer to myself, my life as a movie. So whatever I do today, I create it. I have the power to create it. I have the power to actually write the scripts to my life. And whatever I realize that is not working for me, I actually do have the power to change it and say, cut next scene and move forward from there. So what I would really like people to know today is that in spite of whatever you have experienced, in spite of whatever you are experiencing now, you have the power to change that situation. You
Yes.
no longer have to sit down in silence and scream silently, because my experience with that is that all the time I was screaming, but I actually felt like I had my voice right here, and it's like I'm screaming for help, but the sound actually wasn't coming, you
Yeah.
know, and that was a horrible experience, and I didn't realize that I was screaming silently all the time. And the things that that keep us quiet from childhood to even adulthood is that when we decide to step back into the experiences we have had, when we decide to step back into the voices that have spoken to us as children, when we decide to step back and look as to how society, our homes have shaped us, and the ideas they have placed in us to actually believe, we have to connect with ourselves and ask ourselves, whose ideas are actually those? Are they
Yeah.
actually like your own ideas? It's like, who tell you that, that you're not worthy? Who told you that you're not important? Who was the first person that made you feel like, you're not deserving? So when you actually connect into that and you realize that you are actually worthy, you are deserving, you are important, you are loved, you know, then you could, stop screaming silently and become impactful and just use the power that has always been there within you.
Wow, Martin. I'm gonna just now I took some notes while I was off the screen. And let me tell you, a lot of it hits home. So we're gonna talk about it. Silent screams. And I might mix a few things up. Now, growing up in the church, I mean, from birth, right? And that's how we met. We met through fellowshipping at church. And I got married. And it's so interesting that I never shared my story until 2020. During COVID, a young lady asked me, she was like, "Can I interview you?" Because at that time, a lot of people just wanted to do something,
Mm-hmm.
you know. And she asked me a question about relationship, and I'm like, "Oh, here we go," you know. And that was my silent scream actually breaking.
Mm-hmm.
So married at 25, married not even understanding a lot of things. You know, I didn't have anybody else in regards to sexual relationship before the person I was married to. So you're going into marriage not knowing, the church telling me, it's so funny, Zaria, and I would say it, she's trying to walk underneath where you could see her back.
Right.
So where it's to the point where the encouragement that I received was, if he wants it, you give it. Fake it till you make it. Encouragement's like, what? And, you know, I took it because I didn't know better. And these are like, you know, women in the church.
Mm-hmm.
7 years later, filing for divorce because we were never compatible. It was more so me wanting to be sexually active the right way, not outside of the marriage. And that was really, you know, years later, the question was asked, so why did you marry? And that was the reason. I wanted to do things according to what I was taught. I wanted to do things according to the Bible. And we live and we learn.
Mm-hmm.
So even 7 years later, so 7 years would have been 2017, and I was silent. I still act like everything was good. I still act like things were, you know, maybe people understood, okay, he's not coming around anymore, something's going on, but I still had this smile. Meanwhile, I was bitter, I was angry, I couldn't be the best mom to these two children. And I kept silent for almost 3 years. You're talking, this happened 2017 when we separated, and I was in school doing my master's, just silent. And then to think, I think I was depressed, but I didn't know because I didn't talk about it. When I was getting married, I didn't talk about it. My friends didn't like him for me. I was just stuck in my ways, like, I'm going to do this because then I'm in this marriage for 7 years, hoping that, you know, things change, getting counseling, and it just didn't. We sometimes think we can change these people when they're stuck in their ways, especially Caribbean men. They're
Right.
very stuck in their ways. And, you know, knowing red flags. Now, you mentioned Les Brown in regards to these things sometimes happen because of the decision we made.
Mm-hmm.
And or we put ourselves there. And honestly, Martinette, I put myself there because I made a choice. I wanted to have sex in a marriage, not outside of a marriage. I didn't want to have sex with this person and then next person. And that was just a mindset that I had. And then to think, what God has joined together, let not man put asunder. I honestly don't think God put us together. I think it was me and it was him. But God blessed us with two, you know? And the church didn't help. Because even when I was going through separation, the ones that didn't know, and I'm talking about leaders, they bashed me, including my dad. How dare you talk about divorce? How dare you talk about? So it hits home when you talk about the thing that you grew up in, the people you grew around that you thought would support you, would pray with you, would encourage you, not to stay. And I had to be really blunt to my dad and even say, he would give comparison to people that stayed together unhappy. And I said, Daddy, I can't. I can't be a good mom because I'm bitter. I'm angry. I'm not happy. And for them to see me like that, who wants to live in a home like that? I said, I would rather be alone and happy than stay in this and fake it till I make it. Not at all. Not at all. So it really hits home when you share that story in regards to the church not being there, you know, being depressed, making these vows because you think you have to stay in it. And again, going back to 2020, when I shared that story, this lady was married for 20 plus years. And she actually hit me up on, it was Messenger, and she thanked me for sharing that story because she felt stuck and she thought she had to stay in it. And I'm not telling you to leave, but if you follow your heart and if you're unhappy, especially in a relationship like you shared, where you're being abused, then who wants that? And sometimes it's fear. Sometimes we try to do it to protect our children. But honestly, I'm glad I made the decision to walk away because I've been the happiest person you could meet.
Exactly.
If you thought I smiled before, I'm smiling bigger now. I mean, it's a little lonely now, but I know, that person would find me, and love would find me again for sure. And I believe in love, and I want to talk about that because I know you have children. How has the support been with children, or having children, even experiencing that, and being married 2 times? Do you see yourself with someone again? Share that part, because a lot of people feel like it's the end of the world. There's no hope. I'm about to be 40, and I'm like, God, I trust you. I'm not going to be 50 and single. I could tell you that, but tell me what's your point of view on, in regards to your journey, and where do you see yourself with love and your support system?
Okay, so I'm glad you mentioned that. Well, funny enough, I think it was like in 2008 when my second marriage started having a lot of problems. I really didn't know what to do. One day, my son was 7 at the time,
Hmm.
and he witnessed some of the abuse, and he said, "Mommy, are you and Daddy getting a divorce?" And I said, "Yeah, maybe." And he said, "Why didn't you tell me? You think I'll cry?" And he was 7 at the time.
Wow.
And I actually drawn some strength from him at the age of 7. But did I leave? No,
Right.
I did
Right.
not, because the child said, "This is not what God wants." I
Yes.
mean, I had people telling me, "Oh, God told them." I mean, when you have leaders telling you that they have a prophecy that God
If
said,
he
I
didn't
mean,
tell you, if he told them, he needed to tell you first,
right,
so
right. So actually, yeah, so I did stay until like about 2017, 2018. I mean, look at
okay.
it from 28 to now
Yeah.
2018. So
Yeah.
I stayed. But in regards to love, of course, I do believe in love. I have too much love in me not to be
Right.
in
To
love.
share it.
But
Yes.
what I can say though is that being single since officially 2018 is
Hmm.
the happiest I have been.
I'm
It
telling
is the
you.
happiest. And like you say, it do get lonely sometimes. It do get really lonely. I'm not gonna
Yeah.
tell anybody that it doesn't, but I don't go finding love. You see, now because of my mindset, having coaches and different stuff, mentors, I
Yeah.
am very intentional with my words. So I heard you say
Yes.
that love will find you. I don't say that because I believe now with the mindset that I have, I believe if you're looking for something, it's because it's being run away from you, right? You don't chase it, you're not looking for it,
Right.
so you attract, right? So
Right.
I no longer say love will find me or I'll find love.
I
I
love
say
that.
now I will attract,
Yes.
and I basically like put out what I want to attract. But in
Yes.
the meantime, I'm happy. In the meantime, I'm joyful. In the meantime,
You're
I'm peace.
traveling, you're
I'm
living, you
traveling.
got your Bantu knots and your hoops.
Yes, feeling the sexiest and the
Right.
most confident. I mean,
Yeah.
every day and every way, I'm getting better. But
Yeah.
I do believe in love. I love love. I love love,
Yes.
and
I say that all the
I know.
time.
Yeah, I love love,
Yeah.
and I know that this time when I do attract love is because the right person will attract me,
Right.
and is someone who I know that will be a leader, and I'll be confident enough to be vulnerable, because feeling safe is super super important for me,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
So I know that I will attract the guy who I will feel safe with, and in the meantime I pray for him.
Mm-hmm.
Even I meditate a lot, and even yesterday on my morning walk and meditation, I was praying for my purpose partner. You
I
understand?
hear you.
Now I refer to him as my purpose
Purpose
partner.
partner. I love
Yeah,
that.
and I say, God, wherever he is, I know you're working on him for me, and in the
Yes.
meantime you're working on me. And I walk in and I'm praying, and I'm like, while you're protecting him and you're working on him, let him not be distracted by the dessert, right? Let him
Right.
know that his main course is right here. And in the
Hey.
meantime, while you're working on me, let me not be distracted, because yeah, there are men who are interesting, but
Right.
because of the standards I have now, and because I know
Yes.
what I want now, no, that is just like a dessert.
Right.
So I don't want to be distracted by the dessert. I know
I
my
love
purpose
it.
partner is out there, and
Main
I'm
course.
and I'm and I'm ready.
Yes.
I'm ready, and I know he's ready. But it's just God's timing, and
Yeah.
I always say now I'm open. I am very open to connecting with new people.
Yeah.
In terms of dating, I believe in dating. I'll date, but
Mm-hmm.
not date actively, and I'll date
Right.
now because I want to collect data, right? So
Right.
when we were taught that when you're dating, they're thinking, oh, it's a bad thing, you don't have any character because
Right.
you're dating multiple people.
Right.
Now my mindset is, as long as I'm not sleeping with them, then there's absolutely nothing wrong with that, because
Right.
I want to know where the man mindset is, because
That
my
is true.
purpose partner, his mindset has to be somewhere. I mean, he has to honor God, right?
Yes.
He has to have great credit and investment. He has
That's
to have
right.
lots of real
Ask those
estate, you
questions.
know. He has to have that bush credit, right? He has to have a community, because I'm connected to a community of powerful women. So I want
Right.
him to have a community of men as
I
well
love
that he
that.
can
Yeah.
turn to. And I want him to be connected to a community of strong men who are not afraid
Mm-hmm.
to call him out, and
Right.
celebrate him, with no
Yes.
jealousy, call him out when he's bullshitting and celebrate
Right.
him when he's doing great. So
Exactly.
those are some of the things that I'm actually looking for,
Yes. That is
need
a
in my
great list.
purpose
And I hope
partner. Yeah.
everyone who's watching is taking notes, because I'm taking mental notes
Yeah,
and
yeah,
writing my
yeah.
thing down too. And, I'm glad you said that you're ready. I know for sure I'm not ready. And part of me not being ready is my children,
Okay.
because my son, he
Mhm.
said, Mom, you can't have nobody. And I'm like, oh, so you want to grow up and leave me old and dry
Exactly, right.
while you live your life? I said, oh, so your dad can move on, but
But
me
you,
over here have to just wear my red lipstick and,
yeah.
I was like, all right. So, even with that, I respect that.
Hmm.
And it's also to protect them in regards to not having people around, because it's not even a fear of trusting people, but it's a fear of trusting people, because even again, hearing your story, starting at age 9, this abuse happened,
Hmm.
started to happen. My daughter's 9 now. And just to think, she's developing and she have questions and, they get curious. But so I think I want to protect them and just continue communicating with them. And when I know that I'm ready and I do start dating and, you know, attracting love, as we say, that they would be at an age where it's like, okay, Mom, I understand now. Like, I understand you shouldn't be alone. Because even having them, I mean, your son was 7 when he mentioned certain things. My daughter was 3. My son was 6 at the time when that separation happened. So they were young.
Right.
And what they remember is not good memories. So I now want them to understand I love love. I have so much love to give.
Mhm.
We say I love you to each other every day and things like that. So it's like, okay, now I need to know how mommy loves somebody of the opposite. How does she hold hands, or, and I don't want them to be grossed out by it, that type of thing.
Okay.
So I'll know when I'm ready, and it would have to do with them being ready as well. And yeah, so I appreciate you saying that you're ready, and you will attract love, because you're
Good.
a lovely person.
Yes.
And
And you as
even
well.
you being happy from, let's say, more happier since 2018, that's to tell you the freedom, because I'm telling you, the day that they left, there was such a load lifted, and I cried, and it was not tears of sadness.
Mm.
And the day that I shared that story for the first time in 2020, it was such a load lifted, because I held it in for so long.
Mm.
So as you continue to share your story, I know it's going to, again, help so many people. So many people that's living in that silent scream,
Mhm.
holding these stories in, or holding, but like you said, your story is not for you. It's for somebody else. And we go through these tests. So one day we could have a testimony.
Yeah. Yeah.
Any last words before we close out this episode?
Absolutely. So for anyone who's actually going through something right now, I'll say give yourself some grace.
Yes.
Give yourself some grace. And one of the things I did and still do is that while you're giving yourself grace, forgive yourself.
Yes.
I learned this from Lisa Nichols, right? It's called like the self, the mirroring technique.
Okay.
And wow, that was like really hard to do. But it was one of the steps to my journey of healing. So what I would like to say is, for anyone who want to give themselves grace and get out of a situation that they're in, do this mirror technique, right? Stand in front of the mirror naked.
Mm-hmm.
Look yourself in the eyes. I mean, look really into you. Watch yourself. No makeup, no lashes, no nothing. Get real down and look at yourself and forgive yourself. Make a promise to yourself. What I did is that I said, Martinette, I'm sorry. I'm sorry for letting you be in a situation, in a relationship, and having you stay in a relationship that no longer served you. I'm sorry for allowing you to stay in an abusive relationship. I'm sorry
Right.
for allowing you, to feel like you were not worthy. And
Right.
when you forgive yourself for that, you say, please forgive me. and then you make a promise, right? It could be like three simple promises, because sometimes we
Right.
overthink things, right? So
Yeah.
some of the things I promised myself in the initial start of that journey in the mirroring exercise, what I did is that I said, I promise that when I shower, I will take extra time with you. I'll take
Yes.
extra time to lotion your skin, to love on you. I
Right.
promise that when you're in a conversation with anyone and they start disrespecting you, or the presence make you uneasy, I promise I'll take you away from that situation.
Right.
So, you could just start
That
by
is
making
lovely.
simple, simple,
Yes.
simple promises, not to overthink it. So I'll say give yourself grace,
Yes.
knowing that you are powerful beyond measure.
You
That
are
is
speaking to me, my
actually,
love.
that
I
is
love
my
that.
actually best quote, is that you are powerful. Our deepest fear is that, we are not inadequate. We are actually powerful beyond measure.
Yes.
So give yourself grace and know that you're powerful beyond measure. You got this. You got this.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. And if anyone wants to follow up with you, where can they find you on social media handles?
Okay, so on all platforms, I am Martinet James. So you can actually find me as Martinet James
Martinette
on all
James.
social media platform,
Beautiful.
IG, Facebook, TikTok, wherever, wherever.
Awesome. Well, Martinette, thank you so much.
My
I'm
pleasure.
planning to have a just an end of year group discussion with the woman that I did interview this year, because I really want us to connect and network, and even the coaching mentors that you have, if anyone maybe want to be a part of that network, I think that would be really good, because we need each other, and even for the guys, like I said on the last episode, that are out there, we know you guys have stories too, and you hold it in, and you don't share as much as you should, but find a community. Men need to find a community. They need to be discipled. They need to learn how to be men, how to treat us as queens, because that's what we are. We're queens and they're kings,
And they're
you know,
kings.
they're
Yeah,
kings.
they're
So,
kings.
Martinette, thank you so much. It was great hearing your story, and keep pushing, keep sharing your story, because, like you said, your story is not for you, it's for someone else. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Bye.
All right. Well, that was like a great episode. I am so glad that Martin had answered the call to being a guest. And it's a journey overcoming sexual trauma. I mean, from a child, from not an infant, but 9-year old. That's a trauma to definitely get over. And I know she's not all the way over, but she's still healing. It's a journey. But having a community, having a support system, is so important. Speaking life to yourself, giving yourself grace. That is something else I have been saying lately, and even encouraging people that, may call me with a situation. I'm like, give yourself grace, be at peace. So as we end this episode, Clivia, you are going to be okay. And I like the part where I'm going to give you extra attention in the shower. Thank you guys for watching. Continue to be bold, be brave, be beautiful. This is hashtag her story with Clivia. Thank you.